Davenport, founder of Davenport and Barr, and with me today is Karen Davenport, president of Davenport and Barr. We are so pleased to present this special session on philanthropy. Make it part of the organizational plan. In our presentation today, you will learn the important role each of the stakeholders, the relationship person, the board, the gift planning specialist who provides technical and educational support, and most importantly, loyal donors and residents, play to ensure that the mission and the long-term sustainability of your organization will be enhanced. Each of you will have a thumb drive that contains the slides in this presentation, together with an outline of the important elements of the gift planning process. I will now turn the presentation over to Karen.
Thanks, Mike, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about your philanthropy plan and how to build a very strong philanthropic program. We just wanted to say a special thank you to Leading Age California and the Delta region for inviting us to be with you this afternoon. We are sorry that we can't be there in person, but we are so pleased to have this opportunity to present some of our ideas and thoughts to you. Leading Age California is one of the leading age organizations that we've had the pleasure of interacting with over the last couple of years. We've done a lot of work in senior living, and we're very pleased to be speaking to you folks today and to have the opportunity to share with you some of the things that we've learned. And I know that all of you probably know the mission of Leading Age California, but it's to be an advocate in the state for quality senior living and care. And we all know that that takes a lot of financial resources to achieve at the end of the day. So our agenda today, we're going to have a short primer on philanthropy. As Mike said, we're going to talk about loyal donors and why they are important. We're going to speak about elements of planned giving, as well as why you should be ramping up now. We'll present a case study, and finally we have a special invitation for each one of you. So let's begin our short primer. What is philanthropy? Well, it actually comes to us from the Greek word philanthropia, which means the love of mankind. And it really is that altruistic concern for human welfare that goes beyond the transaction of giving money away and getting something back. It's that intrinsic value and feeling that gives us knowing that we've helped another person or organization or the world take a step farther. A lot of people are squeamish about philanthropy or fundraising, but we like to think of it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for your organization to provide an opportunity for someone else to do something that perhaps they may want to do. And it's the opportunity for the donor who may have their values aligned with yours to do something that they really wanted to do. So that's the way we like to think of philanthropy. It's meeting the organization's needs and the donor motivation, and when we can do a good match in that area, we have success. It certainly is more than a one-person job. No matter how great a volunteer or a fundraising professional may be, it really is an organizational-wide effort. We will talk about this a little bit later on. More and more we find that running a development operation is a staff function, less than a volunteer or board function. But there are certainly things that throughout the organization people can do to be helpful in achieving what we call a donor-centric environment, or a culture of philanthropy, as you've probably heard of. It also takes more than one project. Philanthropy has to be understood and accepted throughout the organization. It isn't just about that one project to raise money for that need that you have right now. It's an ongoing set of activities that really begins to define the organization's mission and values. As we said, we like to think of philanthropy as being donor-centric. Well, what do we mean when we say that? We've given you some examples in your handout, but simple things like using you a lot in your communications, talking about the donor, the person, and what they've done for your organization, being prompt with thank you letters and receipts, and by prompt we mean within a few days. Certainly make sure you get the data right. Data entry and fundraising database software is critically important, even for small programs. We certainly want donors to be able to direct where their money goes. We don't want just unrestricted gifts. That, in fact, it's becoming less and less common to receive just plain old unrestricted gifts. Many donors want to know where their money is going and want to monitor that. It's also important to give recognition. It's important to protect confidentiality if that's what the donor wants. Those are just some other examples. Across the organization, we know when we've seen a donor-centric organization, when we see philanthropy costs as an investment, when we know that donors are valued for their opinions and their ideas, and when communications are personalized, it always helps to create that relationship and make it stronger. We certainly want donors to receive reports and information about how their gifting is making a difference. And always allocating time within our schedule, particularly to keep our donors, the ones that we've got, in methods that will help us to acquire new ones. A word about board members. We hear a lot of organizations, and we've heard this from day one, say our board doesn't get involved, they're not interested, they don't seem to help us do anything. And we hate to say this, but actually in senior living organizations, that's more the standard than anything else. And there's a reason for that. We know that senior living organizations are highly regulated. If I'm not incorrect, I think it's more so the nuclear power these days. The most highly regulated industry in our culture. So board members are busy with a lot of other things, and oftentimes board members are recruited because they have financial savvy or legal advice, and they may not be interested in fundraising. So one of the things that we say is, if you can get your board to be an advocate for having a philanthropy program, and you can get them to give, to just be supportive, that in this day and age can be a lot. So we suggest some ways in your packet, some things that board members can do to help. None of it involves them asking for money, which most of them have no interest in doing, and we shouldn't try to push people who aren't. But they can be supportive of the program, they can endorse the program, and they can give. Those are some things that we believe board members can do and help us most effectively. A little information about charitable giving and where it stands in our country today. We just finished the year 2013. We won't have those statistics probably until the spring, so I'm reporting 2012 data. But in 2012, $316 billion was raised in our country, and most of that was raised by individuals. In fact, 230 billion came from individuals alone. That's a lot of money. Just to put it in perspective, I was reading in Ski Magazine that the cost for the Olympics, the Winter Olympics this year in Russia, the cost to build that infrastructure was $50 billion. So this is 6 times what it costs to build that infrastructure. It tells us that this is a big business. We have a very generous society. $316 billion. Again, I said most of it comes from individuals. 72% of it, in fact, comes from individuals. If we look at where it goes, you'll see here that religion and education get the lion's share. Combined, they're almost 50% of what's raised in our country. Healthcare, and that's where we see senior living organizations falling, probably. Maybe there's some human services in there, maybe some public society benefit for those of you that are hospices or provide senior services. That's about somewhere between $20 and $25 billion that's raised. If you are an organization that has religious roots, That can be sometimes a benefit to you if you're still active within that religion or with that affiliated church. We've seen cases where that's a real added benefit for organizations. We've also seen it as a not so great benefit if it's just in name only, and many organizations have gone to changing their name if they're no longer connected with, say, the Presbyterian Church, for example. There are two real essential fundamentals when we're talking about philanthropy, and if you keep these in mind, you'll do really well going forward. And the first one is to always remember that giving is voluntary. Nobody in our country has to make a philanthropic gift. We do it because we want to, and there are a myriad of reasons why people want to, but we have to remember that first and foremost, it's voluntary. The second suggestion or fundamental that we have for you is to not think of it as asking people for money, but to think of it as asking for people to make an investment in your organization, in your mission work. That's better terminology than asking people for money, because that's really not really what we're doing. We also like to talk about the so-called 5 I's, donor-centered philanthropy, or as I said earlier, donor-centric organizations would think of these things. Every organization has to do this to have a philanthropy program, but most of us would like to begin by identifying and then go right to the top and ask people to invest. And the process of informing, interesting people in our organization and involving them, we inform, we interest, and we involve, that can take years. It can take a few months. It depends upon the donor and the circumstances and a lot of other things. We're going to talk about those differences as they apply to senior living in a moment. But it's most important for those of you maybe who are just getting started to think about, who do you want to identify? Who are those people that care the most about your organization? They may just be starting out with your board members, past board members, maybe grateful families, but you need to identify who those folks are and begin that process of informing, getting them interested, and then getting them involved. We're going to talk about some loyal donors and what loyal donors are and why they are so important. One way of describing loyal donors is to think of those folks who give consistently. Every time you ask, every time you send out a mail appeal, if you do that, they give. Maybe they give without even being asked. Those folks are loyal. Maybe they're volunteers. Many volunteers give their time, and that's how they measure their loyalty to your organization. Board members are certainly loyal contributors to your organization. They give time and often money as well. So we think of donors as people who are interested in our organization and give something, not necessarily just their money. There's also what we call the civic donor, and more this is what we see in independent living organizations. It's those who are compelled by their surroundings or a situation to give. And they may or may not have given previously. We often learn of someone who has given a great deal of money in our community and we never even knew that they were wealthy, let alone generous. A lot of people wait until after they've passed away to share their generosity, and no one ever knew. Sometimes we call them the civic donor. In senior living, there's kind of a great divide, if you will. Most traditional organizations, if you are a nursing facility, either skilled nursing or long-term care, if you're a hospice, if you're a senior services organization, if you're anything other than an independent living community or a community that serves independent living residents, you have to go what we would say the normal route of philanthropy, which is identifying your donors, usually sending out some kind of a mail appeal. That's still the best way to attract folks. And then we bring them through what we call the donor life cycle. We get them to give a number of years, we inform them, we interest them, we get them involved, and we look for their continued giving over a period of time before we really think that we can ask for something major, like a major gift or a planned gift. We want to build that relationship, and we need to build that relationship. The same thing is true in a continuing care retirement community, except for the fact that it's really a closed community. If the residents are happy, if they're happy with administration, if they're pleased with their surroundings and the camaraderie, many times this process can be accelerated. Folks are older. They're not in the beginning or the middle of their lives. They're most likely at the end of their lives. And so if they're interested in something that's happening in their community, they're more likely to make a gift from assets rather than income, and sort of bypass that whole appeal process and donor life cycle process and kind of go right to the end, and often want to make a gift out of assets, which leads to planned giving. So just to summarize, in a continuing care retirement community, you can move a lot faster toward what we consider to be the end result of the ultimate gift, a planned gift, much quicker than in other types of communities or facilities. It's not to say you can't do it if you're one of those other kinds of organizations, but what we're just saying to the CCRCs is that you can do it in a more accelerated fashion. Loyals self-identify, and you want to look for some of these things. Obviously, the things that I mentioned earlier, folks that give to mail and email appeals, people that make memorial gifts, they attend your special events, they are engaged in volunteer activity, serve on boards and committees. Maybe it's people in your community who just talk positively, who seem really happy, who take ownership, who get involved, who lead committees. Maybe they encourage others to get involved. Maybe they're known for giving to other charities. These are some of the markers, depending again on the type of organization you are, that you want to look for to begin to identify who your loyals are. So why are we talking about planned giving? Why is it so important? It's really where the largest gifts your organization will receive will come from. They won't come necessarily from, or probably not at all from, your annual drives, your mail drives. Major and capital campaigns, many of those gifts still come out of people's liquid assets. It tends to be more wealthy people that give to capital campaigns and are able to make major gifts of, say, $10,000 and above. The interesting thing about planned giving is you don't have to be wealthy to make a planned gift. So anyone who has the capacity to make an annual gift, who has assets, and most people do, has the ability to make some kind of a planned gift. The majority of planned givers give less than $500 a year to organizations that they care about. Age is a factor to a degree, but it isn't always. Those loyal attributes that I mentioned earlier really better markers. And certainly folks with no children who are loyal really go to the top of our charts because they just don't have necessarily anyone close to leave it to, and they're often inclined to leave it to charitable institutions if they're encouraged to. So again, planned giving, why is it so important? Because these gifts will undoubtedly be the largest gifts your organization will ever receive. So planned giving, let's talk for a moment about what this means. What are the elements of planned giving? Well, it really is an integration of personal goals, financial goals, estate planning goals, and what we like to call charitable dreams. There are many unique opportunities that do solve problems for people in their lives that can be accomplished through planned giving. It may not necessarily be a problem, but maybe it's a challenge. It may be how they want to, an individual or a couple wants to gift money to their children through their estate plan. There are some vehicles that can be helpful to the family as well as to your organization. It's interesting, but when we pass on, and the thing about planned giving is we do have to talk about a couple of things that sometimes people don't like to talk about: death and taxes. But there are only three places where an estate can go when we pass away. It can go to family, it can go to charity, or it can go to the government. It's becoming less likely for it to go to the government. We just had some major changes in our tax code, and now the federal threshold for where an estate tax would kick in is over $5 million for an individual and over $10 million now for couples. So for a lot of people, that just takes it off the boards. So for most folks now, it's two places, either charity or family, and those are more fun to talk about for most people. There are three types of planned gifts, and only really three types of gifts in general. There are outright gifts of cash or appreciated assets such as securities, gifts that return an income, and gifts that happen upon death. Most people don't think of cash as a planned gift, but many times it is, particularly for older people. And in discussions with folks on the topic of planned giving, many times they'll look at all the different vehicles and then just decide that cash is the easiest one because they don't need various tax deductions or income that some of the gifts produce. So it just very often, after reviewing all their possibilities, cash turns out to be the best type of gift. And we really like it when that happens too. This just gives you an idea of the various types of assets that can fund planned gifts, and there are a lot of them. And when donors see this slide, their eyes kind of open a little bit. And many people who didn't think they could do something begin to think about, wow, I really do have a lot, and maybe there is something that I could do or give. Very powerful when people see this information. We also like to think that you can put planned giving into three different buckets. The first one is family now, charity later, where most planned gifts fall. The other is charity now, family later, and again, that is when folks give cash or charitable lead trusts or a type of those when we put the charity first. And then there are things like ongoing philanthropy, donor advised funds, family foundations, that kind of thing. Most frequently we're dealing with the category of family first, charity later, and that is how we like to talk about it because everyone wants to think about their family first. That's just a given. We recommend, and actually this is a principle that we adhere to in our business, we're proactive and we advise folks to be proactive in the things that are most likely to happen. Bequests and beneficiary designations. They're the easiest type of planned gift, and they are what happens most frequently. If you're in a state that's friendly with charitable gift annuities, and quite frankly, California is not one of those states. It takes a little bit of time to get a permit and work in California, but it's not something that can't be done, and I'm sure that folks out there perhaps do have permits to issue charitable gift annuities. But they are also very common in our country. It's the second most popular planned gift, or it may be tied for the donor advised fund right now. But bequest, charitable gift annuities, the most popular planned gifts in our country. And why? Because they're gifts that almost anyone can do. You don't have to be wealthy or super affluent. So we recommend be reactive to the other stuff that may never come up. Your organization may never even be told that someone has included you in a charitable remainder trust. They don't have to. You may not know if someone you would know if somebody has established a lead trust because you would start getting gifts from them, but other gifts such as gifts of real estate, things that require a lot of study, nobody can be experts at that because you're probably just not going to get that many of them. So if you focus on the things that are most likely to happen, bequest, beneficiary designations, gifts of life insurance, the things that the most people can do, you're really in good standing. Just for your information on the average bequest size in our country, the average bequest size today, starting in 2014, is about $32,000. That's a pretty nice gift. I mean, bequests can go from $500 up to, I think it was $2 billion was maybe the largest bequest that our country's ever seen from the Kroc family, the McDonald's heir. But you can see here on this slide that bequests come in lots of different sizes, but most of them are between $1 and $50,000. So again, something that everyone can afford, or a lot of people can afford. This slide here is an example of a charitable gift annuity program, and you'll see that it's quite dated. It goes back to a client that we had, more than a decade ago, and they had a very robust charitable gift planning program, primarily in charitable gift annuities. This is a CCRC who at the time had 3 communities, with only one community really being pretty active in giving. And you can just see here the potential possibilities of what the charitable gift annuity can do. And we've seen folks that actually will make these gifts every year. They may have a series of CDs that they can easily turn over and convert into a charitable gift annuity that pays them today a much better rate of return. So very, very powerful gift, the charitable gift annuity for communities, particularly with older folks, because the older the person is, the better the rate is that they will receive. So planned giving, it's a really good investment. You can see here the cost to raise $1 with a lot of other activities. In planned giving, we have 20 to 30 cents to raise $1. In a closed community, like a continuing care retirement community, or even if you're local to your organization, it's going to be probably more like 10 to 20 cents because there's no travel involved and not a lot of the big costs of people having to go all over the country to see people. Planned giving really is about conversations with folks and sharing information and seeing if there's a match. It is not an expensive enterprise. So we like to think that folks really can live better when they're charitable, and we call it better living through charitable giving. But just some of the things that planned gifts can provide for folks: income for life, a charitable deduction. They can diversify their investments. They can reduce or eliminate gift and estate tax. They can get a higher rate of return than they can get on a lot of investment tools today. They can eliminate income tax on retirement plan assets. They can avoid capital gain liability. They can actually benefit a younger family member or a non-family member through a charitable gift annuity. And they can freeze the value of growing assets before giving them to their family. But probably most importantly for 99.9% of us is the ability to make a much larger gift than we ever thought was possible. And that's the real joy in planned giving, and the joy that we see in donors that are able to make these kinds of gifts. So why ramp up now? Well, there are a lot of good reasons. People are aging. You'll see here on this chart the massive increase in folks over 65 and actually over 85. And by the year 2020, the number of people in California over the age of 65 is projected to be more than 6.5 million. We know we don't have services and places and programs for the masses that are going to be aging. I believe it's 10,000 people turn 65 every day and will for the next 15 years or so. So we've got a major wave of aging folks coming, and we need to be able to take care of them. So there's a reason why planned giving is interesting and important to folks as they get older, because it helps with two of their major concerns, which are losing independence and running out of their financial income. Seniors today are really challenged. There are tax disincentives, there may be loss of military and other pensions, unexpected increase in medical costs and increased liabilities, credit card and other current debt. There's a wave of seniors that are filing for bankruptcy, perhaps the loss of a spouse, that's always a huge burden. Less affluent children and grandchildren. We've all heard that our children and grandchildren, at least mine, probably don't think that they're going to do as well as at least I did, and certainly not as well as my parents did. They may own multiple properties, and that could be a problem. And they're very risk adverse from the recession. So these are some things that are facing today's seniors, and you'd think, wow, why would we want to push planned giving on people? Because planned giving can help solve some of these problems for people, or I should say challenges. You can see here in your slides how bequesting gift annuities meet the needs of seniors. There's a wide variety of reasons how one can be helped through making a gift like this. And they're very, very easy gifts to make. And the other thing about particularly gift annuities, we very often run into folks that say, particularly by the time they're in their 80s, that I've got my estate plan all wrapped up, I don't want to make any more changes. A charitable gift annuity is outside of an estate plan, it's a contract. And things like bequest designations on life insurance policies, on IRAs, those don't go through a lawyer, it's simply a change on a beneficiary form. So those are some really easy things that seniors can do, and it doesn't muck around with their estate plan, because they may not be interested in doing that if they're, say, over the age of 75. So why now? Why should you be ramping up now? Because in a mature program, most planned gifts will mature in something like 7 to 10 years. And once you've got a book of planned gifts, you can begin to budget on counting that some of them are going to mature every year. So you begin to have a sustainable income that you can count on. You might say, hey, we need current cash. Well, not all planned gifts are deferred. A life insurance policy that's fully paid up can be cashed in. Maybe it's real estate that's marketable and can be sold, like that vacation home that none of the children want and the mom and dad are sick of paying the taxes on it. But it could be something that your organization could easily sell because it's on Cape Cod or it's in Florida and it's desirable property. Recent tax code changes give rise to conversations about charitable gift planning, and in fact, more wealthy people have been impacted more by those tax changes. Capital gain rates have gone up. That's good for things like charitable remainder trusts. So conversations, we've got a reason to talk to people. Organizations that only dabble in planned giving usually earn 50 to 100 times more than those who don't. And a typical planned gift can be 200 to 300 times the size of a donor's largest annual gift. And there's more. Most Americans' net worth is in other assets than cash. In fact, it's about 91% of our assets are in things, vehicles other than cash. And as we represented on that slide earlier, those are all the things that can be given away in planned gifts. We're not necessarily looking for cash, but we know people who have individual retirement accounts that might have over $1 million in them, and they're very tax disadvantaged to leave in an estate plan, very tax disadvantaged. So in talking to people, sometimes they're often eager to get them out of their estate plan because they don't want their children to be burdened by that extra tax. Many folks, if they've lived a long life, have been married several times, and that presents issues that can be solved through charitable gift planning. There are vehicles that can help pass along resources to certain family members, and even for adults who may want to do something for their children. You can do a deferred gift annuity that benefits someone, say, around 50 for when they hit their retirement age. Lots of creativity. So if your organization isn't promoting planned giving, rest assured that another organization is, and they're probably talking to your clients, to your residents, to your grateful families, and they're getting the planned gifts and you're not. So ready, set, go. We really like to say if these 3 things are in place, you can start a charitable gift planning program. First, your administration and your board have to be respected and trusted. Secondly, the board and administration have to be supportive of a charitable gift planning program. They've got to be respected and trusted. They've got to be supportive. And finally, you have to have prospects. And if you remember, those are those people that we talked about, the folks that have to be identified. Prospects can simply be people who support your mission. They can be current or past board members. They can even be current or past staff. And of course, residents, clients, patients, and their family members. Those are the ones that we typically think of. So just to give you a break from hearing from me for a moment, and I hope you're still with us, I would like to turn it back over to Mike, who is going to give you a case study on one of our clients. It's called Fleet Landing, and they've had remarkable results in a short period of time, so I'll turn it over to Mike to tell you all about it.
Thank you, Karen. We'd like to chat with you now a little bit about a really wonderful case study, a real-life example of one of our clients, a continuing care retirement community in Florida that we've just had the great fortune to work with over the past few years. We'd like to share with you what's happened, how we planned, and what the results were, and also tell you, quite frankly, that this may be way outside the box. If someone was just a percentage of successful as Fleet Landing has been, they would have a great planned giving program. So let's begin here. We started working with Fleet Landing and really focused on what the best practices were and what some of the infrastructure needs were in order to establish a planned giving program. And while these things may seem mundane, I think it's important that we mention each one. These are all things that were accomplished over approximately a 6 to 8 month period. One of the first things that we did is we drafted a manual of policies and procedures and guidelines for the program that covered all kinds of topics, best practices, a variety of legal issues and tax issues, do's and don'ts, and so on, which set the discipline for the program. In the course of doing that, we sought the approval of both administration and the Board of Trustees. This is a critically important part of the process because you want to make sure that you can avoid any possibility of any litigation or any third-party dissent in anything that you do. So we wanted to establish a very, very, very high-quality, highly ethical program. We then knew that because we did not live in Florida, they needed to have a relationship person. And so we went out with the administration and helped them secure a director of charitable gift planning. This person's primary responsibility was to develop real, thoughtful relationships with residents and other individuals. And that was her primary duty. That was very, very critical because residents at Fleet Landing needed to know that they always had a place to go in order to ask questions, maybe not get the answers instantly, but to discuss issues that they had and see if there were solutions to those issues. We then facilitated some workshops, particularly for administrative folks, so that they would begin to understand what this philanthropic process is all about and what really is a planned giving program about. Many times folks, even in administration, they don't even know what a gift annuity is, and that's perfectly understandable. They've not been exposed to them. But we wanted to give them the basics and what the fundamentals and the background and the foundation of a strong philanthropic program would be. We developed a system to ensure that all gifts that would be coming in would be recorded properly and accurately, and that all donors would get acknowledgments and appropriate thank yous on a very, very timely basis, and those would be very, very highly personalized thank yous. We then worked with not only Fleet Landing, but with the authorities in the state of Florida to make sure that we sought and secured the appropriate permits in order to issue charitable gift annuities in the state of Florida. This was very important because, as we said before, as Karen mentioned, charitable gift annuities are the most popular life income gift in America today, and we wanted to make sure that Fleet Landing had the ability to offer gift annuities, particularly to their residents. We then set up a program working again with administration where we, Karen and I, would serve as advisors to the program and provide one-on-one direction and education and orientation for the new Director of Charitable Gift Planning, so that that person could begin to understand the details in the process. We worked to develop promotional materials, marketing materials that would be available for residents on a variety of different kinds of planned gifts. We did it in a way that is very frugal, that did not require a lot of design in print, which can be very expensive. We designed the materials so that they could be printed right in the office by a color laser printer and be high quality materials for residents. So we were very cost conscious in how we approached that. We developed roles and responsibilities for a charitable gift planning task force. This planning task force was made up primarily of residents. And as Karen mentioned earlier, that good philanthropy programs want to be donor-centered. And the best way to have them be donor-centered is to involve those very donors and donor prospects in the program at an early stage so that they would feel they had some ownership and some equity in the program. We were very fortunate to have about 9 or 10 wonderful residents who were not only knowledgeable on a lot of topics, but were extremely interested in learning, and the more that they learned, the more they wanted to be advocates and active in the process. It was a fairly simple process to populate this task force and recruit this task force. Once we recruited one individual, that individual became helpful in recruiting the next one, and so on and so forth. And then we also had a special situation at Fleet Landing where we wanted to establish clear delineations between the Charitable Gift Planning Office and what they call their endowment fund. This endowment fund, in their case, was actually a separately incorporated 501c3 organization whose purpose was really two things. One, to provide scholarship funds for staff folks for continuing education, which was very, very important to them, and they wanted to continue that. And so that was a important thing that we had to do. We did not want to conflict with the work of that group. And what we did is we purposely set up the offices of the endowment fund and the charitable gift planning office so they were right next door to each other. The endowment fund was totally run by volunteers, by residents, and we developed wonderful synergies between the two, and there's been literally no conflict between the two because they both understand what their roles were to be. We facilitated discussions on the fundamentals of philanthropy with the Charitable Gift Planning Task Force. We provided a lot of education. We took a lot of time on a monthly basis to give them updates on different kinds of planned gifts, various tax issues, and there's been plenty of those in these last few years to consider, and we wanted them to be as well informed as they could possibly be. Some other important things in terms of the infrastructure is we developed a plan and a strategy to involve residents, to inform residents on various charitable gift planning opportunities and benefits. This was a key part of the program. And what we did in that program, and this really goes to the wonderful work of this Charitable Gift Planning Task Force, which has now become really a Charitable Gift Planning Committee. They like to meet regularly, and they're always thinking of ways that they can reach out to their fellow residents. And they did so in a number of ways, and one of the first things that they wanted to do is they decided to host a series of receptions in resident cottages or resident apartments, and they would be hosted by members of the Charitable Gift Planning Task Force. They would be largely social. They would also get to hear from the CEO of the organization in making a few brief comments about the program, and then a very, very light and short and brief discussion about gift planning opportunities and the fact that seminars were going to be held on a regular basis on a variety of different topics. These were enormously successful, and folks became very interested, and the result was we had wonderful attendance over the past 25 months in the seminars that we conducted along with the Charitable Gift Planning Office on a variety of topics. And what was really neat about these is we were not selling anything. We were beginning to create conversation. We were beginning to provide information about planned giving and various opportunities. And following each of these receptions, individuals would either come to us directly, or they would go to the Charitable Gift Planning Office, and they would ask questions or they would express interest, and we would then have an opportunity to follow up on that. In many cases, it led to an opportunity to develop real live gift illustrations on how a particular kind of planned gift would work for an individual or for a couple, and that frequently wound up becoming a planned gift, which we were fortunate to have an opportunity to help facilitate in that process. So in that process, we were able to provide illustrations and gift proposals, and in the case of charitable gift annuities, to actually put together the contractual agreements for those gift annuities and to actually make that happen. And that's how this program really was born. There were some statistics at Fleet Landing that were particularly important to us, that we think probably are quite similar to perhaps many of your organizations here in California. The average resident age at Fleet Landing was 83 years old. The number of independent living residents was about 440. And this was just a single facility, not a system of several facilities. And the average age of death, we like to say the average age when one's birth certificate matures, is 90 years old at Fleet Landing. And they had an annual rate of birth certificates maturing of about 10%. So over a 10-year period, one could say that all of the residents would be replaced by new residents coming in. So that was data that was important for us. Comparing that to national statistics, the average age of death in the United States is 79.5 years, almost 80 years. That's quite a bit younger than the average age of dying in a CCRC. I think that speaks volumes for the quality of life, the activities, and the absolutely fantastic experience that CCRCs afford our seniors in this country. Also, the average age of gift annuitants on a national basis is 79 years old. So these can be very popular for this particular age group. And just as a little added note, as mentioned, seniors who live in these wonderful facilities tend to outlive their counterparts who don't have that opportunity by the full, 10 or more years. That makes plan giving very, very popular and well worth pursuing in terms of senior living facilities. Okay, so the result of all of this infrastructure at Fleet Landing, and what's happened? What's been the result? Well, they've gone from 0 planned gifts to over 7 million planned gifts from November 2011 to January of 2014. That's a mere 25 months. This is unusual, and I think we would be hard-pressed to find another example exactly like this, as good as this, probably anywhere in the country. But it's not impossible that it cannot be replicated in other organizations. So how does this all break out? Well, this pie chart shows you the total of that over $7 million. Cash and securities, $2.8 million, all resulting from originally starting out with conversations about gift plans and people's estates. Bequests, $3 million plus in bequests from residents. And by the way, all of the gifts, with a few exceptions, particularly from board members, has been from the residents of Fleet Landing. Charitable gift annuities, brand new program. There's pretty close to 50 charitable gift annuities, and they total over $880,000. A highly successful program in a very short period of time. And some folks, there are 3 or 4 individuals that have been so pleased with the results of their gift annuities that on an annual basis over the last couple of years, they've engaged in additional gift annuities. So they've established new contracts, the same individual. There's one individual that's on their 3rd gift annuity, and that individual has a series of of certificates of deposit, and each one matures in December, kind of like laddering a bond portfolio. As each December approaches, this individual has taken a significant amount of money from that CD and turned it into a charitable gift annuity, and is extremely happy with the result. We've had an opportunity over the last few years, been extended several times. It started in 2006. It unfortunately has ended in December 31, 2013, but there's been a wonderful opportunity for folks to make direct transfer rollovers from their individual retirement accounts to charitable organizations, and Fleet Landing has promoted that as well. And they've had a smaller amount, but folks have been enormously happy, those who have been able to transfer monies through that vehicle. Unfortunately, that was not extended in the most recent congressional actions. We're hopeful it might get picked up again, but this being a midterm election year coming up, we're just not sure that that's really going to happen. And then finally, a charitable remainder trust, a smaller amount, a small sliver. Oftentimes we don't know the value of a charitable remainder trust. We know it exists, but we don't know what its value is going to necessarily be, so we record them at $1. They may well be more than that when those birth certificates mature. But at the end of the day, over $7 million in 25 months for Fleet Landing. That's pretty exciting. The number of gifts that make up that $7+ million has been 96 gift commitments, and there's a breakdown here in terms of what they are. You'll see 40 in the red part of the pie chart are charitable gift annuities, a small number, 8 individual retirement account transfers, 37 individuals have made outright cash gifts, and so on. So that just kind of gives you a balance. It's not all one kind of a planned gift. So what are the success factors at Fleet Landing? Well, residents were in fact very pleased with the administration and the management. They have an outstanding management team. They're great communicators. The residents feel well informed, and they're happy because of that. There's a tremendous camaraderie at Fleet Landing amongst the residents, and Karen and I have had really a unique opportunity to spend a lot of time at Fleet Landing and to get to know a number of the residents. And gosh, when we have those opportunities to go there, many of them communicate with us, wonder when we're coming next so that they can invite us for dinner. But that's all goes towards building those relationships. The director of charitable gift planning is highly trusted, highly regarded, and people really enjoy working with that director. They also have an important project going on, which happens in a lot of CCRCs, which they feel that their gift commitments are going to help make this project become a reality, not only for themselves, but for future residents. In a nutshell, this project involves a complete redo of their entire health center, which includes their assisted living center, their nursing facility, a brand new memory impairment building, and lots of residents feel very strongly about that because they want to know that if something happens to them, that they're going to have a good place to go. It's right on the campus. It's a magnificent plan, and everybody is excited about it. The Charitable Gift Planning Committee has been enormously involved, enormously committed. Their enthusiasm spreads throughout the facility. Hopefully everybody, we think they do, but they've been pleased with the work that we provide as charitable gift planning specialists to answer those technical questions, to put together those gift annuities, to help people sort through one option or another as to what kind of plan might be most appropriate for them. That's been an important part of their process, and folks there have felt a lot of comfort in that. Information has been shared in a very low-key way, certainly not by selling. That's the last thing this program has focused on, is selling of anything, or frankly even asking of anything. And there's been almost no case where any individual was asked to make a gift commitment. They've stepped forward, they've wanted to do something. Residents have responded very well to the seminars. Some of the seminars have been just a few people, and quite frankly, that works very well, because when you have a seminar and there's only a few people, those folks are much more comfortable asking questions. So the number of folks attending a seminar is not necessarily the most important factor. Fleet Landing also created a legacy society, and there is one thing about Fleet Landing that we should share with you. A great percentage of their residents, over 60%, are retired military. They're affluent, they're well-to-do, but we would not necessarily say that they're rich folks. They're not Forbes 400 folks. And being military, we went through a process of wanting to create a legacy society so folks could feel that they belong to a special group, that they could do something once a year that would really be unique and special. So they created the Spinnaker Society, which has worked well, and every year there's always a flurry in these first few years of people wanting to join that society, wanting to make a gift, so that they could attend the annual event. That has worked very well to support this program. We would invite any of you, and your contact information is here. The Director of Charitable Gift Planning, as we said, is this wonderful woman who is just great to work with. The residents love her. And we put her email address here. If any of you would like to pose a question, to ask her a question, I think she would be more than delighted to respond to you in that regard. So your team, your gift planning team, is here. It's Karen and myself and our daughter-in-law, Anastasia Barr, who works with us on a lot of our technical things, particularly our website and our newsletter, and she's very valuable to us. We welcome contact by anyone who is interested in posing more questions to us. We'd be delighted to respond. And we have a special invitation for you folks, and we really make this invitation to you because we know that we're not physically in California today, but we invite you to go to our website and fill out a survey questionnaire that we have. Send us that survey. We'll contact you and set up a 1-hour conference call with no obligation to you. This is a total freebie, and we'll provide you, based upon that information and that discussion, with the best advice and some suggestions that we can that may help you develop your plan, or perhaps even start a plan for 2014. So when visiting our website, we urge you to also sign up if you would like to receive our newsletter. We have a great newsletter. It's informational. It comes out on a quarterly basis, and it's a quick read. And when you go to our newsletter, you also can go to the archive of previous newsletters, and we hope that you will enjoy those as well. We'd like to just share with you quickly. It'll be in your thumb drive that you can take with you, but we like to list the variety of resources that we use in our work. A lot of it is technical, a lot of it is legal, a lot of it is investment, a lot of it is tax, and these are all very, very important elements, and so we just hold out to you what our resources are. And then we also, like a lot of organizations, we have a disclosure that basically says, and we have a little fun with this, that anything that we told you, you can't hold against us. But we do believe that what we've shared with you today really is based on best practices. It's based on our combined years of work with many organizations, as we've said, in senior living and in healthcare and in other organizations. And we hope that you can see from our presentation today that we just have a great deal of passion for what we do, the clients that we're so fortunate to work with, and at the end of the day, those residents that we're able to help achieve their charitable dreams. So we want to thank you, for attending this session, and wish you the best of luck throughout 2014, and we hope that you make charitable gift planning a part of your plan in this coming year. Thank you.
Happy New Year.